The indie market is not one that I used to pay attention to. I would play a few indies here and there, but I would always focus most of my time on the AAA market. When I went to PAX in 2017, it was a bit of an eye-opening experience for me. I got to interact and talk to many developers about their games, which created a more personal conversation about the game, and you could really tell when you're talking to a PR person or a developer. The PR people are generally very pleasant to interact with, but when you discuss the game with the developer, it's their baby, their project. I got a nice taste of many indie games while I was there, many RPGs that turned out to be really great games. I played Cosmic Star Heroine, Battle Chasers, and Full Metal Furies, among many others. Those experiences were my introduction into the indie space, and it was a space I wanted to continue to explore. In early 2018, I came across a JRPG that looked very inviting and familiar, and I had to play it. It was Legrand Legacy. I played the game for over 60 hours, and it was one of my gaming highlights from 2018. With it releasing on the Switch, I wanted to touch on some aspects of the game in this video on why you should give this one a try. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Legrand Legacy. Legrand Legacy is a love letter to PS1 era JRPGs. It shoots to emulate that style. This means that there's a large focus on the story, turn-based combat, visually stunning cutscenes, and a memorable soundtrack. Legrand Legacy starts itself on the right foot with an intro cutscene that is both something that you would expect to see within these games, and it's pretty awesome at the same time. The initial cutscene isn't the only thing to hook in the player. The gameplay does a good job of this as well. It doesn't take long until you're thrusted into an adventure and a world you want to learn more about. What I do think helps this game is how small the story is within the first few hours. We meet our main character Finn and get some hints that he might have some special power about him. Finn also has forgotten his memories, and it's something that is used in a lot of games with their main characters so that they can learn information at the same time as the player. This allows Finn to be in a position where he would question things just like the player. It keeps it simple and compelling. So the beginning gives you a nice taste of the story, creates an initial mystery, and it doesn't waste any time getting you into your first dungeon. This first area is pretty good. It helps to set the stage and expectations for the future areas. You need to contend with the heat along with getting sucked into the sand, and you might have to fight some monsters below it. And this is where you get to experience the combat system. The combat system for the most part is a traditional turn-based combat system. You and your team take turns with the enemies, and within those turns you can complete your basic attacks, special moves, magic, or even use an item. Attacks will present the player with a brief QuickTime wheel where you need to hit the presented button within the presented area. Within my review, I compared this to how Lost Odyssey used something like this with its ring system, but many people commented and said that the system present within Legrand Legacy is more accurately like Shadow Hearts. I sadly haven't played Shadow Hearts, but now I really need to play it because everyone keeps pointing it out that this is definitely something worth visiting. Regardless, I know that people are not fans of QuickTime events, though the events that take place within this game are really not that annoying. I would have found these more annoying had they have placed a button on you having to use a healing item or if you wanted to use some type of healing spell. Thankfully, they are not used for those situations, and it was a good choice to not include them there. When you are within a fight, you build up energy from attacking and guarding. Once you have enough, you can execute a special move. These are more flashier moves you'll be able to execute within combat. Some will change and grow as you continue with the story. The game does give you some preference on where you place your party. There's 2 rows, a front and back row. Placing someone within the front row will give you a buff to their attack power, while placing them in the back will give you a buff to their defense. You will have plenty of characters with different moves to choose from. All of this makes for an interesting combat system. The game can be rather hard at times, so learning the ins and outs of the combat system will really help you out a lot. While not getting into any spoiler territory, I did want to mention the story. I really enjoyed the story along with the cast of characters. Like I said before, the story starts off rather small, and then it does turn into a traditional save the world type situation. Some might see this as a weakness for using this story element, but this is also part of the genre and time period that this game is trying to emulate. It was a smart choice for the game to start off the way it did, as I found it to be very easy to start understanding the basics and getting into the world. Where the strength of the narrative really comes in is with its cast and their development. You will get to learn about each of the characters, and many of them will grow over the course of the game. This is where a lot of the emotion will come into play with the narrative, and it's what I really enjoyed about the story. The original release did have a weakness within its story and how it abruptly ended. Other people took issue to how 2 characters and their lines shared between them took place. The developer took this as an opportunity to add more closure to the game, and in many instances rewrite the story to improve it based on player feedback. The story, world, and characters are all memorable. Now, this wouldn't be a grand JRPG if it didn't have side content along with many mini-games to play. While the dungeon exploration and turn-based combat takes up most of the gameplay, there is a strategy-like form of gameplay that pops up throughout the campaign, along with some more optional missions. There are your expected side quests with a fun gladiator arena that you can use to be able to defeat a bunch of enemies and get great rewards. You can even fish, duel, and play other minigames. There's plenty of extra content to enjoy, with a good amount of it being very enjoyable. I love the music that is presented throughout this game. There are so many memorable tracks, and I want to present several of them to you now so you can kind of just take them in as is. Here are a few tracks from the game. It is probably no secret that I love this game. Legrand Legacy is among a good handful of indies that I have played that really showed me the talent of the indie market. These developers hope to make a new JRPG that really would bring me back home to the PS1 era. They didn't take the easy route, just using nostalgia as a crutch to just help sell their game. Nostalgia was definitely a factor here, and contributing to the influences, along with there being a good group of people that really want to play something that they played when they were a kid. But the nostalgia here wasn't just used to help market their game, but rather contribute to the foundation and their true talent from being able to be fueled by nostalgia and executing something new that they came up with, that was both their own and paid respect to what came before. When people ask me about great indie games or recommendations, I usually go to a nice handful of excellent titles, and this is definitely one of them. Playing this game was a real treat. I loved the new world, the characters, story, and battles that this game presented, and at many times it made me feel like a kid again, playing Final Fantasy for the first time on my PS1. The PS1 was my introduction into the JRPG genre, and Legrand brought me back to it, and when the nostalgia left me, I had this new memorable experience that I wanted to share with everyone. If you grew up with JRPGs like this, or are looking for something that is similar to the games from that time period, I would highly recommend you play Legrand Legacy. It's out on PC and Switch right now, with more platforms coming in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.